Welcome back to the 40-Day Joy Challenge, where our goal is helping you live life as it was meant to be. It's day 13, and the thought of the day is this: I 4-ate my mate. I 4-ate my mate. Can you guess what that means? Marriage, like the rest of life, is never all good or all bad. Every husband and every wife are imperfect, gifted as well as flawed, in numerous, sometimes unpredictable ways. And no other aspect of our life can either boost or blow up our potential for joy more than married life. Consequently, nowhere is the Apostle Paul's advice from Philippians 4:8 more valuable, more practical, or more enduring than in the arena of marriage, especially in relationships. Even the best of relationships, there'll always be some junk that accompanies the joy. Just consider the complexity of permanently merging two very different human beings together forever, no strings attached. Inevitably, permanent relationships are filled with peaks and valleys, but even in the valleys, not everything will be rotten. There will still be some things worth appreciating. And even on the mountain peaks, stresses and struggles will certainly linger. Perfection is not part of the picture, is it? So, could it be that the pressures of marriage have more to do with how God wants us to grow spiritually than any other priority? Well, in today's session, we're going to examine the connection and the impact that joy has on your marriage, and also how you can become your spouse's greatest champion by using some 4-8 thinking. Let's go to the lesson right now. God designed marriage to reflect divine love, meaning that just as He loved us first, we are to love our mate first, even when he or she is not acting quite so loving. In fact, if we love our spouses only when they are treating us well, can it really be labeled love at all? In the famous love passage read at many weddings, Paul describes true love in this way: love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. Of course, that's a high standard, and the way that we actually implement this high standard of love is by following the instructions of Philippians 4:8. While Corinthians defines love, Philippians shows us the mental path to demonstrating such love. Consider that every thought you think about your spouse either strengthens or weakens the foundation of the relationship. Thoughts about your husband are not neutral. Thoughts about your wife are not neutral. Every thought matters. Warm, caring thoughts build up. Cold, selfish thoughts tear down. Thinking negatively about your spouse, even if you believe it is warranted, will postpone true intimacy and the closeness you both desire. As relentlessly as you may try, you cannot think one thing about your mate and experience something different in the relationship. It's worth noting that much of the negative thinking about your spouse occurs when he or she is not physically present, meaning outside of an actual argument. Nonetheless, the effects of this invisible negativity will, in due course, become visible in the relationship. Sadly, even strangely, instead of looking for the single reason to adhere to their wedding vows, couples often nonchalantly ruminate on all the reasons to abandon their promises to each other, as though this were an acceptable exception to the rule. Many husbands and wives justify withholding positive attention from each other because they don't happen to feel like giving it. Unfortunately, these feelings can quickly cement into emotional habits that act like an emergency brake on the quality of the relationship. When couples get into ruts, it's easy for spouses to unintentionally seek out evidence and pay extra attention to circumstances that validate their disappointment or other rotten feelings. But by now you know that these rotten feelings are not accidental. They flow naturally from the animated thought patterns that stubbornly fuel them. By continually replaying grievances in their minds, husbands program themselves to be less than loving. By mentally marinating in thoughts of frustration and discontent, wives condition themselves to just go through the motions. It doesn't have to be this way. How about you? In your marriage, do you tend to spend more time looking forward or backward, dwelling on the past, or dreaming together about the future? You can strengthen your marriage by purposefully becoming your spouse's greatest champion. Anyone can praise, encourage, and build up after the fact, but you can take a proactive, faithful role in the quality control of your relationship by affirming the seeds of what is lovely, excellent, and appreciated in your mate before it even shows up. Keep in mind that no one on the planet has such a dominating influence on your self-worth as your mate. In fact, in a marriage, there is a collective self-image that establishes a ceiling of fulfillment and satisfaction for both of you. In other words, as a husband builds up his wife, he builds up the whole relationship. As a wife affirms her husband, she is affirming the future she really desires. Since you are doing this life together as one, why not do it right, with gratitude, grace, and greatness? Starting today, why not 4-H your mate? Lesson 13 is coming to a close. Let's hit a few reminders. First, joy is God's plan for us, and it's our birthright. Next, my objective is to share a bunch of joy-producing ideas with you. These are habits, they're perspectives, they're strategies for living life to the fullest. See, as your coach, my job is to inspire, to push, and to challenge and to remind. Your job is to put as many of these ideas as possible into action. That's why so far we've been nudging you every day to come up with at least one thing you're going to do after each lesson. So how about for today's lesson? What's one thing you're going to do better or improve in order to bring out the best in your spouse and experience more joy in your marriage? Back tomorrow with ideas for breaking ruts and getting joy-ruvenated. Remember, it's true, your joy does bless others.